Welcome to the podcast that questions everything, from conspiracies to philosophy, from science to religion. We will be looking at the construct of the illusion, and as always, we will question everything. Hello and welcome to Everything's Illusion, the podcast where we question everything with myself, Rob Wallace, and Greg, Andrew, the bearded master of sci-fi. How you doing, Greg?
I'm very well, thank you. How you doing?
Good. This is the 50th anniversary of JFK, and kick it off, Greg, kick it off. Tell the good people.
Okay, well I thought for this we should open our wee podcast up to a wider world, so we've asked the people on the Facebook and the Twitter and a couple of conspiracy theory forums to get in touch and ask us questions or kind of give us talking points to talk about, because I think the JFK assassination is such a wide topic and there's so many facets that can be looked at. I'm not saying all of them are true or all of them are false, but some of them are really, really valid and some of them are not valid, and we need to look at them all, I think, because in all of them there's wee different bits. So just for starters, Rob, what's your kind of background in the JFK conspiracy?
Just first I'd like a good shout out to Masato Toys Forum.
Yep.
Great forum if you're into thinking and all these kind of things. Check it out. A couple of questions from there, the guy Masato and all the creative juggernauts over there. My interest in kind of knowledge and before the podcast for the JFK was pretty much I would say general, like most people's. You know, I've watched the Kevin Costner, the 27,000 hour film with Kevin Costner. I've watched various documentaries on classically huge and controlled documentary channels like History Channel, Discovery, etc., National Geographic. And I've obviously read and listened to many. No one in the Western world does not have an idea of the official story and some conspiracies. So I'm in that, or I was in that kind of group. Fascinated,
cool. Well, my kind of fascination started in about early teens, when I was 93, so about 30th anniversary. So we had a mad school teacher, Mr. Woods, if you recall him, Rob. Do you recall the man?
I think modern studies history kind of.
Aye.
Yep.
So I think his real job is modern studies, but he ended up having to cover for RE classes, and because he never knew much about RE, he would just take the class and then we would sit and discuss the JFK assassination, and he had all these mad posters up with the single bullet trajectory and all that, and we would watch JFK and we'd watch the documentaries, The Men Who Killed Kennedy and all that stuff. So for that really clicked my imagination, and then throughout my teens read loads of books, the Jim Marrs books, and there's a book called The Second Plot, which is one of the better books, and from there, now we've got the internet, you can sit and watch hours and hours of YouTube stuff and different theories and just kind of try and take it all in. So that's kind of where I am. It's the kind of gateway drug for me that got me into questioning
everything
and the kind of official accounting, how maybe what your government says isn't really the truth. So I think it might be a good idea to maybe go through a kind of timeline just quickly about what happened.
Yep. Sounds good.
Just to kind of refresh all our memories about the JFK assassination. So let's go through kind of the basic facts. So on the 22nd of November 1963, John F. Kennedy, President of America, was going through Dallas, Texas, in his motorcade on a parade. At about 12:30, his motorcade turned into the Dealey Plaza complex, which is just downtown area of Dallas. Going down the road towards an underpass, several shots were fired, and from those shots, 3 people were injured. So the first major incident was President Kennedy was wounded in the back and throat and fatally in the head. In the front seat of the motorcade was Governor John Connolly. He was injured in the back. His ribs were broken through bullet wounds. He punctured his right lung, and his wrist ended up being shot as well. And then one bullet, or a fragment of a bullet, came off, hit a curbside, broke up and hit a bystander who was standing just before the underpass. And that was a man called James Tague. So he's quite important because we'll come back to him later on. He received a kind of cut in the side of his face from the fragment of the bullet. So that's what. Shortly after that, at the time of the shooting, the presidential limousine was in front of the Texas School Book Depository, the very famous one. And on the 6th floor of that, there was a sniper's nest was found with 3 bullet shells and a rifle. This rifle was linked to Lee Harvey Oswald, and he was identified shortly after as possibly the assassin of the president.
He's the guy that done it?
He's the guy that done it, so that's it. So he was arrested after a short time after there was a policeman shot and killed an officer called J.D. Tippett, and allegedly Oswald shot him about 2 miles or a mile and a wee bit away from his boarding house, shot the police officer, then ran to a movie theatre which he was hiding in, and then the police came and arrested him. Lots and lots of police came and arrested him. So that's kind of the official version of what happened. Obviously we'll start now and kind of dissect that and see where we can go. So I don't know, I'll let you kind of maybe just ask a wee quick question there, Rob, and that can kind of let me get my thoughts.
So like, obviously that is the, as you say, that's the official version. The thing that gets me with the whole JFK, that was 50 years ago. And 50 years ago, they never found out what happened then. And we have 50 years of bureaucracy. So I think a lot of the newer evidence, or the newer ways of looking at things, as much as a conspiracy, real people work in administrative jobs for 2 years, 4 years, 10 years, etc. And they people, human error, everybody's worked for management, have not a fucking clue what they're about, who they're doing, their systems they have in place, etc., etc. I think over 50 years, the bureaucratic system has helped dislodge and make disappeared any footage that may have been relevant. Some of my my first question, obviously both of us are filmmakers at heart. One of the things I read was about the Nix footage.
Yep. So
the Nix footage was the Nix footage was capturing the Zapruder film. So the Zapruder is in the Nix footage, and it has the angle that shows the grassy knoll, which to most people who interviewed after it, or within the vicinity and interviewed, said that when asked, that most likely they thought the shooter came from that direction. Yeah. And the Nix footage it was sold to a newspaper for $5,000 and then borrowed by the Warren Commission and not given back, and the duplicate that was given back had frames and parts of the film obscured that were key parts.
I think with something like the Nix film brings us to the very obvious first questions, like, so the case that's been presented through the subsequent Warren Commission, which was Lyndon B. Johnson put into place to find out what happened that day. Their case is a lone gunman went crazy, was a disgruntled communist who defected to Russia, came back, was working in Texas, heard the president was going to go by his work because he worked in the school book depository.
Decided to kill the president.
Shot 3 bullets, done, then was killed himself. So when we start, so that's Lee Harvey Oswald we're talking about, obviously. So we can maybe talk about him a wee bit later on. But I think on that idea that within that Dealey Plaza, we have the very famous Zapruder film, which was bought by Time Life magazine straight at the time. There was the Mary Mormon photograph, and then there's allegedly a babushka lady. She might have taken some photographs.
Yep.
And then, so if you'd actually see, there's a few stills of the next film I think you can find online. And if you see the stills from that film, you can see Mary Mormon and the babushka lady and Abraham Zapruder as it spins round. So if these, even just 20 minutes, 20 seconds, a minute, whatever, after this assassination has happened, we have people coming, taking evidence, altering evidence, giving it back, or going to newspapers that have legally bought that evidence, subpoenaed it, or just taken it, and then when they ask for it back, it's been changed.
Yep.
So if Lee Harvey Oswald was a lone gunman crazy person shooting 3 bullets from that book depository, there'd be no need to do that stuff. So this is one of the many factors that open up the idea that it's a conspiracy. If there's more than one person involved in this act and the cover-up of this act, then it's a conspiracy. So I think the next film is very interesting because it's a very different angle to the Zapruder film, and it should show us if there was anybody on the grassy knoll that there was somebody there, which would be the second shooting point. Which again, if there's a second shooter within that Dealey Plaza, that gives us a conspiracy.
Then Oswald is not it. I think, obviously, from a filmic point of view, when you have the two almost opposite angles,
yep,
or fields of planes of view, fields of view, then you can sync the footage up, and work with the footage to build, a much larger picture of, the movement of the various, people's...
A timeline.
Yep. And obviously that's a bit of information that's very much in good hands of the people who controlled the actual day, as opposed to the people who are... Obviously, everyone after that day was asking, how did it happen? Who was it? When was it? Etc. Why? The official line obviously gives you out that it was. Yep.
That's what I did. Yeah, I'm just going to say, so if we're talking about what happened in Dealey Plaza, I think we need to start at the very beginning. We need to deconstruct what the official story is. So the official story is Lee Harvey Oswald on the 6th floor, shot 3 times, third shot being the headshot. Dad's killed the president. So this is me being segue man. This brings us back to one of the major questions that was asked through the kind of, when we asked folk to give us their kind of theories and stuff like that. They would say, can you talk a bit about the single bullet theory, or the magic bullet as it's called?
Yep.
So the Warren Commission would have you believe that Lee Harvey Oswald, with his I'm trying to remember the name of the gun, is it Marcano gun, was shot 3 bullets. So the first one bullet caused... Sorry, there's a wee timeline to this, so I'm mixing myself up. So the Warren Commission had 3 shots because in the sniper's nest there's 3 bullets, or 3 casings. So it came in 3 stages. So stage 1 was December. So the FBI reported in the assassination that 1 bullet caused Governor Connolly's wounds, passing through his torso, shattering his wrist. 1 bullet caused Kennedy's fatal headshot, and 1 bullet caused Kennedy's non-fatal wounds entering his back and through his throat. So that's 3 bullets for all those wounds. Then it came to light that James Tague, who was underneath the underpass, is shot by a bullet. So if that bullet's hit the curb, that gives us 2 bullets. And one of those bullets we know from the Zapruder film is a headshot. So that means 1 bullet caused Tague's wound, 1 bullet caused the head wound, and 1 bullet goes through Kennedy's back, goes upwards, out his throat, moves in mid-air, comes down into Connolly's back at a different angle, exits his chest, breaking his ribs, passes through his wrist, lodges itself into his left thigh, and then when they're at the hospital, it falls out onto a gurney that he was sitting beside. So that is the theory that's presented to the Warren Commission. We have the 2 bullets doing the head wound and the James Tague miss and ricochet, and then that extra bullet does all those wounds and then winds up on a gurney at the hospital.
It's kind of crazy to think that that is the accepted.
And it's still, everybody calls it the magic bullet theory, like it either did or that didn't it, but it's still a theory. It's not like the Warren Commission said, this is how these wounds occurred.
This is the only way it could have occurred.
This is a theory. They've made up a theory to how this would occur. Printed it. They've not said this is how it happened. They're saying here's a theory that would explain all of this. Well, that's the way I read it.
Well, that's the only way that you can read that or explain that, because it is pretty ridiculous. When you see any kind of ballistics testing or weapons holes or kind of footage of what a gun does, it's a small entry, large exit, and it generally travels through the human body pretty much in a straight line. Shattered, it wouldn't have ricocheted off a vertebrae and changed direction. It would have went through or slightly deflected, but it would have went through the bone.
Mm-hmm. So again, we come back to the idea that if the shooter in the 6th floor book depository never caused all these wounds, and even that we could probably say it might not have been Lee Harvey Oswald who was there, that would mean another person, an extra person, somebody else shoot from the grassy knoll that we can maybe surmise is where another shooter came from, again gives us a conspiracy, which means the official verdict, which is still the official verdict today, is a lie. So it's these things that you kind of question in the whole JFK thing that kind of you try and pick it apart. But there's just that, we're just scraping the surface here, dude. That was just. So I think the single bullet theory for me doesn't stand up. Oswald says he was on the 2nd floor canteen. The theory being that he was waiting for his handler or whoever he worked for to maybe give him a call or a sign.
I wonder.
Although the official verdict has him running down like 5 flights of stairs, passing people who have no recollection of him passing, to get down to that floor, have a drink, and then have a police officer barge in, because a police officer was driving behind the 2 motorcades, heard the shots, looked up, or thought they came through, but rushed in. He was first on the scene. He was 1 minute and 30 seconds after this had happened, after the 3rd shot had been hit. He was in the building talking to Lee Harvey Oswald, who was in the 2nd floor canteen. So he's probably not even. It's not even people who kind of still say Lee Harvey Oswald did something to do with it. I don't think he was even shooting. He was in the 2nd floor canteen. Another thing is, if everybody in podcast land just takes a wee second and shoot those 3 bullets, right? So 1, 2, 3, and then but on the floor there's 3 cartridges. To expel a cartridge you have to reload. So if you've just shot 3 times, there'd only be 2 cartridges there, because if you had a headshot you wouldn't reload again. You'd be out the door even quicker, if that makes any sense. So you go shoot once, the bullet ejects, shoot twice, bullet ejects, shoot a 3rd time, you just put the rifle down, your job's done. So it seems to me that I don't even think they used that rifle, and then somebody just placed 3 cartridges down.
That kind of fits the military profiling. If you have done a set thing a set way 1,000 times, then on the 1,000th and the first time you're going to do it that set way. Mm-hmm. That's maybe just habit.
But again, the way the cartridges were found, they were kind of in a row, very neat. Like the conspiracy theories would say had been laid down, which I think is the case. I think it was empty shells from that gun. That gun was never used.
Bill Hicks does a good gag where he goes the book depository window, and it's got a barrier next to it.
Yeah.
And he says the reason the barrier is there is because if you were to look out the window, you would go, no way. I mean, if you actually got a chance to look out the window, you'd be like,
yeah.
nope.
But again, the whole timeline for a lone crazy gunman, he would take, I would assume, his timings from wherever he could get them. So that might be a newspaper article, or the local radio might say, "Oh, JFK's coming to town. This is what time he'll be driving by." Like, so I mean, the motorcade was running 25 minutes late. There was an eyewitness on the 6th floor. Just let's get my notes here, dude. There was a co-worker of Oswald's, Bonnie Ray Williams. He was in the 6th floor at around 12:20, so 10 minutes before the shooting occurred at 12:30. He was eating his lunch on the 6th floor, finished his lunch about 12:20, and then went down to the 5th floor where the rest of the workers had gathered to watch the motorcade go by. So, if the motorcade's running 25 minutes late, if you were going to be an assassin, you'd have been there on time, maybe 5 minutes earlier. But Bonnie Ray says he never saw Lee Harvey Oswald there. Who could move into a position, know that information, and do it quickly? A crack assassination team on radios, on contact, on updates and what's happening, and the whereabouts of the motorcade en route. A lone gunman would have had to have been there at about 12 o'clock. So again, that for me doesn't fit the profile of a lone gunman. There's no eyewitnesses to say Lee Harvey Oswald was there. His last witness of him being there was around 11:45, when he said he was going to go down to the 2nd floor and have his lunch. So, I mean, again, that doesn't add up. A crack team would be waiting. They'd get the call, move in, 5 minutes, do the job, move out in seconds. There's a guy sitting eating his lunch at 12:20. By that time, the motorcade should have passed. A lone gunman would have been found. I think. So that's just another wee bit that, again, for me,
that is very
unravels.
interesting. Obviously, in today's modern world, we just assume, we use Facebook, Twitter, online news and social media. So when, for instance, the Commonwealth flame is passing your house or that, you can follow the updates, and you don't have to go out 30 seconds early. Never mind half an hour early.
Yeah, I think for me that's one of the great things. I think this is a turning point in time where we do have the Zapruder film, we do have a range of photographs, we do have like the radio comm chat for the police and all their logs and stuff like that, and we do have TV footage from straight after the event. 5 years earlier, we wouldn't have had any of that stuff, I don't think. 5 years later, it would have probably been covered up better. That's the intriguing. There's these small snippets of things that we can latch onto and look at. Like the Zapruder film's just the best example. You know what I mean? As you're talking about a world, so as much as it was like 50 odd years ago, it does now seem a long time to me. And it's a case that's more like a historical investigation now. So when I first started looking at it, it seemed more relevant, but that's me just rambling a wee bit, dude. So
that is totally relevant, how the communication, obviously in today's world, it's like anything. You've got to. I as a thinker, I forget 50 years ago they never had social media, so they sort of be things like getting the timing of, when are they going past this window, would have came, as you say, from the newspaper or, previous listening to a radio. And if it was 25 minutes delayed, then you're relying on word of mouth.
Yeah.
So that means he's communicating with people. That means people are, but there isn't that kind of evidence that of eyewitnesses saying, "Oh yeah, I gave Oswald the time."
Mm-hmm.
I said it's 25 minutes late. There's none of that kind of...
Yeah. Whereas if you were part of a two-man shoot team, and there was maybe 2 or 3 other two-man shoot teams all on the radio,
and you're well funded.
And you're well funded. I mean, go back to just the simple fact of Oswald shooting. Oswald on that day allegedly shot a rifle 3 times, and then shot a handgun 4 times, killing the policeman. But when the police did the paraffin tests and the spectrographic analysis for like residue of gunpowder and all that stuff on him, his results were of the lowest you can get, or slightly above the lowest, because he worked in a print factory and there was like the trace of that was in his own system and on his skin and stuff like that. But when they did comparative tests with the FBI guys who shot similar weapons for that depository, when they did like cheek swabs and all that stuff, they were 100% as identified as having shotguns that day. Whereas when Oswald was arrested later on in the day and they did the tests, they came back negative. So even the tests were saying that he might not have shot a gun that day. They had found no prints on the gun until I think it was like weeks later after he died. A partial palm print was found in the gun. So after it had been tested by the Dallas police and the FBI tested it again and it was a palm print. How hard is it to go and get a dead body, a corpse, rub the palm on it? So again, these are all build up for me to prove or to almost refute the official account. And if you refute the official account, you need to ask what else happened and what was the extent of that conspiracy.
And why? Why did they go to this, as you say, the extent? What was the purpose of, or the reasoning behind getting rid of a president? And who has the power to do that?
Yeah. So I think people out there listening have got access to YouTube. If you want to go in and look at the autopsy files and all the videos and stuff about the autopsy, I mean, that's a whole other thing about how the autopsy was on JFK's body was mishandled at best and totally changed to fit the wounds that had been allegedly taken place. So they'd already built up a story that kept changing as the wounds came through. The people taking out the autopsy weren't trained in autopsies, they were just medical doctors. The amount of there's generals and admirals sitting in the room giving orders, nobody's names were on taken down. We'll come back to the autopsy a wee bit later, dude, because somebody had asked a question, but just there's so much information out there now on the internet, on books, that
50 years worth of information.
Once you go down the rabbit hole, it's very hard to come back, as I found. So did you get anything else you came up with, did?
No, well, that for me. I've from obviously we're drawing it out and bringing information for the listeners to conclude essentially that JFK was assassinated and the official result is false. So I'm guessing that obviously that's where I stand. Mm-hmm. So the question for me is, why, who, and then the questions that lead on from that, well, who has the power?
Yeah.
Who has the clout to be able to do something like this and get away with it? All these sort of things you're saying there, masking, the autopsy, funding two-man teams that can communicate, having power over the police and the military, having power over the press, the ability to finance to purchase the various films, to get the various statements, to get them off the police, from the media companies, that kind of power to manipulate the Warren Report, or to have an influence in the Warren Report, or to choose the person who actually done the Warren Report.
Well, I think if we can try and look at that, we kind of must try and establish a reason why JFK was assassinated. The Warren Commission would have us believe that a lone gunman with Soviet influences, an ex-defector who had been to Russia, married a Russian wife, hated Kennedy's politics towards Cuba and Mexico, and took it upon himself to kill the president, who was then in turn killed by Jack Ruby, a local nightclub owner. So that's one set of theories. Second set of theories is we look at the history of John F. Kennedy's presidency. So when he comes in, he's inherited the Cuban situation. Fidel Castro has taken over Cuba. The CIA are running a highly top secret war against them using ex-Cuban military who have relocated to places like Miami. They're running covert operations. The assassination list of Fidel Castro is as long as your arm. It's actually something that's quite comical, the ideas they came up with. He falls out with the CIA. He fires the head of the CIA after the Bay of Pigs, Alan Dulles, who is second in command of the Warren Commission at the end of it. He shuts down multiple CIA camps that are training ex-Cubans. He also, with his brother Bobby Kennedy, pisses off the mafia. And the mafia played quite a large part through their connection with Joseph Kennedy, the father, in getting the Chicago result in the election, which basically won it for Kennedy and beat Nixon. In their first term, Bobby Kennedy and Jack Kennedy decide we're going to go after the mafia, and they have congressional hearings and start putting away mobsters, and that begins the whole thing. If you ever watch The Godfather Part 2, you see those sort of hearings coming into play. He has inherited a conflict in Laos, Vietnam, Southeast Asia, and he declares that he's going to pull out troops and advisors from that area. I think the quote is, it's their war, they need to win it. So culminating in the end of 1963, he has pissed off the CIA, pissed off the mafia, pissed off the military. He is losing his presidency. It can be seen within the states of Texas and all those southern states that L.B. Johnston was brought into his ticket to win over those votes, a good southern man like LBJ. So this kind of puts in motion a kind of thoughts, ideas. I mean, I think the main people he's pissed off is the ex-CIA contractors who are not setting out on their own but are running these camps. Because the CIA are not going to employ military men, because they'd be part of the military then. So it's a covert. So they've employed ex-CIA, retired CIA members. This comes into associates of Lee Harvey Oswald in New Orleans, Clay Shaw and Guy Bannister and David Ferry. This is a circle Lee Harvey Oswald's working in. Ex-CIA members running guns, running ammunition to these secret camps. Kennedy sends in the FBI, shuts down all these camps at the beginning of 1963, pissing off all these people. How do you solve a problem like Maria? That's where, for me, that's where it begins.
That's pretty much spot on, you know. There's a lot of information there and a lot of sort of, you know, seriously, real good reasons to get rid of somebody.
Yeah.
You know, if you think about, most people have heard the term the military industrial and media complex. You know, it's a group of very powerful corporations that are owned by even more powerful families that go back generations and generations and generations. And these corporations and their owners are in the game of leadership and ruling and making money for far longer than a president's term. So for a president to actually pull some of the weeds out and actually start to make some of the changes within his short or her short period of time in comparison to 150 years of shaping, they're not happy.
Yeah.
They're not happy when somebody says, no, we're pulling the troops out of Asia.
Mm-hmm.
Vietnam is a cash cow. One of the longest wars. Nope. Let's go on. Etc.
And I think that would lead to a lot of big contracts in those southern states. Big manufacturers of arms that are probably situated in there.
Huge.
Making helicopters, making war boats, making bullets, all that sort of stuff. So you've got to kind of think, we were asked on one of the forums to maybe touch on a kind of the Bush family connection to the JFK case. So I don't know how much you've read up about this theory. Or this,
I have not, but I've got something good to say, hopefully good to say, at the end of your Bush connection.
Okay, so I'll just sum it up quickly as I can. So at the end of World War II, the Bush family had actually been in businesses with a lot of German companies. And when I say German companies, I mean German banks. When I say German banks, I mean Nazi banks. So
it's well documented that they financed and funded both sides.
Yeah, so the Bush family had been kind of on the wrong side there. So, but obviously they're an American family and stuff like that. So
they were
never
on the
really
right side of making money, though.
Yes, so in 1940, late 40s, early 50s, the Bush family, taken away from that, had looked for new political allies, proteges. And their biggest, most funded protege that they put into place was Nixon, Richard Nixon. So they funded his campaigns, got him to the vice presidency, and then funded his run for office in 1960, which he lost to John F. Kennedy. So their golden goose had lost. So in the background, the Bush family are playing the right side of the political spectrum, if you say, like right wing. I mean, also in that, as we know, come 1988, George Bush, well, we call him George Bush Senior, becomes president. Before that, he was vice president for 8 years under Ronald Reagan. Before that, for 4 years, he was the head of CIA. Before that, he had nothing to do with the CIA, allegedly. But looking through stuff from Freedom of Information Act, there is a very well thought out, well constructed argument that he was a high level member of CIA, put in place during the 50s, done all his training, because he was part of he flew fighter jets during the Second World War, and so he became Office of Naval Intelligence, ONI, which became the CIA. So he'd worked his way up through the CIA, and part of his remit at the time was sending, disguising ships and stuff to sail to Cuba, taking across arms and rebels. And if you look at the manifesto for all these Cuban ships that can be traced back to a possible Bush connection, there's like 3 of them are called Barbara. The ships are called like Barbara 1, Barbara 2, Barbara 3. If I remember, Barbara Bush was the First Lady for 4 years. So he named these ships that he used for rebel sorties after himself. It comes about after Kennedy steals the election in Chicago. Friends of the Bush family, Allen Dulles, is fired from the CIA. John F. Kennedy says he's going to destroy the CIA, and they put one of their top operatives on to sorting that out. There is also circumstantial, very circumstantial from my point of view, but I've looked at them, photographs of Dealey Plaza. There is Secret Servicemen, there is identifiable CIA agents, there is one man who, in 2 or 3 of the photographs, strikes a very, very good resemblance to George H. Bush, who had maybe been leading a CIA covert operation on that day. making sure everything went to plan. He then continues within the CIA before taking up the head of CIA in the late 70s to then go on to take the vice presidency. This comes back to Richard Nixon. He's been funded by the Bush family. A CIA operative, Hunt, who, if you remember your 70s history, was in charge of Nixon's Watergate thieves. He was sent in by Nixon. He was a CIA member. He is connected to Nixon, and he again has been photographed allegedly at Dealey Plaza and Dallas that day. So if the CIA man on the ground is George H. Bush, his man is E. William Hunt, and he's Nixon's man. That would give you, after Ike, they lose the election, Kennedy killed, L.B. Johnson doesn't stand, Nixon leaves Nixon, Ronald Reagan with his Vice President Bush is there, Clinton for 8 years, then Bush and Bush again. So like 30, maybe even 40 of the last 50 years of presidents have been through this Bush connection, this Bush funding for their agenda to be put on a platform. And if you got on the road, you were shot, or if you got on the road, you had seaman dresses taking away FBI agents off their real jobs about terrorism to work that shit out. So this long line can be kind of traced back to the late 40s, and there's a whole documentary on it. I'll send you the link, you can maybe put it on the thing at the end of the podcast. So there is this theory that through his CIA connections, he may have been part of the CIA's or a faction of the CIA, a covert faction, which is being in the CIA, being covert within the most covert fucking company in the world. It just kind of it's a very intriguing.
It makes
line
a lot of
thought.
sense. Makes a lot of sense.
But if you think they're funding these presidents, I mean, how does a man or a family have a one-term president, a two-term president, and possibly now a third-term president, fourth-term president? If Jeb wins,
Jeb.
It's
Well,
in America, anybody can be president. Well, it doesn't seem to be unless you've got.
Oh, the American
the
dream
Bushes
and the whole idea of
funding you.
becoming president is a fallacy and a falsehood. You know, it's a two-party race, red and blue, and they both support war. They both support the wealthy. It's a lot of bullshit. But the two things.
Yep.
Sorry, go for it.
I was just going to say. So that's the theory somebody had asked us to talk about. And I was just going to. That's it. Very, very basically. You can look at the documentary online and read. Hear about it for yourself, but I just thought we'd bring that up there now.
Cool. Two things on the Bush. Bush Senior in his 90s has let slip or had supposedly said the American public can't handle the truth. Now, I think when you're 90 and senile, you don't really care, but they can't handle the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the thing is, even if that what you've just said, a small snippet of that is correct, the American public couldn't handle the truth. And the another thing is, I read an article recently from the bass player of Rage Against the Machine, and he firmly believes that Donald Trump is basically in the running for the race to unite the far right, and then he will drop out, and his supporters will go to Jeb Bush, and that'll give Jeb Bush the extra push that he needs for another Bush president.
Mm-hmm. Interesting stuff, dude. And as I say, there you go. So if you count Nixon, Reagan, Bush, and Bush, that's how many. And also Gerald Ford, who was president after Nixon was ousted. He was on the Warren Commission. He was part of the committee. So maybe count him as well. There's Ford. And if you count L.B. Johnson as the southern gent amongst all who maybe helped organise that or put the idea into those factions' heads that he was trying to win over for a vote, LBJ is the man who got the guys in the south, the guys in Dallas, the guys in the ground to start thinking, put into place a whisper in an ear here, it goes up a chain, it goes here, here, here. You can go LBJ, Nixon, Ford, Reagan, Bush, apart from Clinton and, and Jimmy Carter. I mean, that's a lot of presidents and a lot in one person's pocket or one group's pocket.
It's quite scary.
It's quite scary when you think about it that way.
Especially when you think about the politics of the Bush family. You know, they're very, very wealthy, multi-millionaires, maybe even more than millionaires, maybe even billionaires in the family. And their interests are not the interests of average Americans. You know, they're not interested in what's good for Joe Blogs. They're interested in what's good for big corporations, because that's who they are. You know, they come from, as you say, there's about 3, 4, 5, 6 generations of wealth.
Okay. So, there's a couple more questions. Do you have any more questions, Rob? Sorry, at your end?
You've already answered my questions, so...
Okay, well, somebody had asked if we knew much about the babushka lady.
Oh, nice.
So, within Dealey Plaza, there's actually a couple of strange incidents happening in Dealey Plaza at the time of the shooting. There is a man with an umbrella up, which is a very curious thing. We also have reports of men behind a grassy knoll, one possibly wearing a policeman's uniform. After the shooting, there are men in suits behind the grassy knoll, show ID, they're Secret Service. And there's a babushka lady. She's called a babushka lady because she's got like a wee scarf on, a kind of heavy set coat, and she's seen standing close to Mary Mormon, and she took the famous photograph that was published in the paper. It was meant to be a couple of seconds after Kennedy was shot. So there's two things that occur with her. One theory is that she actually took that photograph of the Mary Mormon photograph is actually from her point of view, and whatever is on Mary Mormon's film shows a lot more. It was confiscated by the CIA. Her true identity, I don't have the sheet in front of me, I did print it off, but she was seen to be, through photograph analysis and stuff like that, she was seen to be a connection of a local CIA operative within the Dallas area who has also been pictured in the vicinity, and he can actually be seen in TV footage talking to Mary Mormon, taking her camera in her film, I think. So the babushka lady is taking evidence. Her photographs are exchanged for Mary Mormon's because they're less revealing, allegedly. There's also a theory that she may have been a shooter. I don't know how valid that is. I don't see any evidence for it. But again, if she is working with the CIA, again, she's been unidentified apart from the video I saw, and I do apologise, I don't have her name. I'll send it to Rob, you can maybe put it in the link. And the person who is identified in that video and through that research stream, died soon after. So she could be, again, another very potential. Her Mary Mormon's footage might have been swapped with hers, so we don't know what's on one of those cameras. It may be very revealing towards the grassy knoll, which I would conclude was where possibly the headshot came from. So again, that's another instance of somebody in the ground in Dealey Plaza, out of place. If you look at the way the route goes for the motorcade, it could have sped straight along the bypass, but it doesn't. It turns up and then round into Dealey Plaza. If you look at the parade route all the way along from TV footage at the time, or the 16mm footage it's taken on the cameras, and the TV crews were following them, if you know what I mean. The streets are lined with people. There is crowds maybe 3 or 4 deep on each side of the road. If you ever look at how Dealey Plaza was set up, look at the Zapruder film, look at the Mormon pictures. There's nobody there. It's a handful of folk. It has been left that way. It's by the simple act of making sure people don't enter, or just shooing them along, just saying, "Oh, you need to stand that side of the road." "Oh, I'm just going down there. Somebody comes in a different way." You can't stop everybody coming in. But Dealey Plaza is, compared to the rest of the route, empty. So who has the power to do that? To keep that stretch of road, slow a car down, and stop Dallas citizens from entering a certain point within the
See, when you think about it, I hadn't even thought of that. How empty, that one, and it's the key section.
Yeah.
How empty it was. Even a minor celebrity comes out and both sides of the road is packed.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind a celebrity such as the president. It's and compared to the rest of that again, it's amazing when you hear just wee things like that and you're like, yeah.
So just thinking that's been orchestrated to go that way. Would you want to talk about the grassy knoll, dude? Will we?
To be fair, I don't really have any. This is not my special subject.
If we're concluding that Lee Harvey, my theory would be, of the research I've done, would be that Lee Harvey Oswald wasn't on the sixth floor depository, the book depository. He was in the
Sounds
canteen.
about right.
There was one team there, but we're saying it's a conspiracy. Through the Zapruder film, we can possibly say that another shot came from in front of the car. A nice place for that would be the grassy knoll. So how can we say there was somebody in the grassy knoll? Well, we would maybe get the 10, 15 eyewitnesses within Dealey Plaza, or the 20 people who rushed towards the grassy knoll, who gave statements saying they heard shots, they saw smoke from that area. So that'd be an excellent place to have a second team. Lee Bowers is a man who works in the car park for the railroad. So behind Dealey Plaza there was like a freight station where trains would unlock and put their different cargoes on and then move out. So that big overpass is what trains would go across all day. He says before it he saw a car circle, and 5 minutes later circle, 5 minutes before circle and stop. He's obviously working at his desk. 12:30, he sees a commotion, a spark of light, some smoke. 1 minute later, 30 seconds later, he sees a crowd of people come into that grassy knoll area. He says he might have seen a policeman in that area with a police uniform. If you take all that evidence into account, then it would seem to me that these people aren't lying. These people have seen something. These people have seen happening on that knoll. People rushing up are told, Secret Servicemen are given accreditations telling people to stand back, moving people out of the road, walking amongst them, moving off. Secret Service say there was no Secret Servicemen there. Are all these people lying? Are they making it up? A conclusion would that be that a second team would probably have been in the grassy knoll. Who makes up that second team? Well, that's another question. So we have Lee Bauer, great eyewitness. His story is he sees a car which he describes as doing a kind of perimeter, if you know what I mean, checking out the car park, making sure there's nobody there, making sure there's nobody at the knoll, the grassy knoll at the fence. At the time of the shooting, he sees a commotion, puff of smoke, people moving off, possibly one in a police uniform. He sees the rush of people coming up. He's talked to the Warren Commission. Sadly, after the Warren Commission, he died. Car crash, empty road, just squared off, died. It's, you know what I mean, one of the kind of people who kind of, through more interviewing or through a kind of longer period of investigation, might have unfolded more truths. We'll never know. So again, there we go, there's a possible second shooter. So if we get a second shooter, we have conspiracy. And we could possibly take note that this conspiracy is taken in from a right-wing extremist arm of possibly the industrial military complex, or a fraction, and when I say a fraction, possibly quite a large part of the CIA, that is also helped by an inept FBI investigation. Because the FBI and the Secret Service's job is to protect Kennedy, but so much there's how much was he pissing off those factions? Because him and Medgar Hoover butted heads all the time. So again, there's another faction we could look at. But I mean, that's so. There's, see, if we think about it, there must be the truth that what happened, and that truth is a straight line. A, B, C, D. These things occurred in this manner, right? But we've been told a lie at the beginning, so all we get is fractions to try and work that out. So no, I don't think any one person has ever had the chance to work out that. Every theory will be different. Every theory could be picked apart in different ways. We've not even talked about Jack Ruby or Mafia. We've not really talked about J.D. Tippett, his possible connections. We've not talked about Lee Harvey Oswald in any sort of depth. Just kind of passing mentions of what the man was like. I mean, we are running up to the hour mark, I think, are we? We're recording.
Yep, we're at 56.
I mean, how is there anything you can think we can? I mean, I could sit here and talk for hours, but I don't want to. We can maybe come back and revisit some stuff if folk want to give us more questions.
As you say, there's so obviously, if it happened yesterday, there'd be so many questions, so many lines of investigation. But the fact it's like the moon landing or who built the pyramids. You know, it's the question is deep.
Yeah.
And there's so many lines of inquiry. And there's so many... but I think, obviously, within that last hour there is so much information that... The two things that jumped out for me was obviously the communication. Yeah, single shooter, Oswald, never had a communication. How do you know that they're 25 minutes late, etc., etc.? I just take for granted just now because we all have, connected to the internet, connected to information that we would just know via social media, etc., that the thing was late, and the fact that the area was sparsely populated, who had that. Most cavalcades going past the places mobbed. I think for me it's a very clear, obviously, and we yourself, the conclusion is that Lee Harvey Oswald was a patsy, and that there was a big headless beast in the background that for political gain got rid of Kennedy.
Yeah.
Or commercial, political, profitable gain got rid of Kennedy. But I suppose the questions for me is, first, what's your go-to theory in terms of for all the information that you've took in? What is the one that kind of makes the most sense in terms of who done it and then why?
Okay. Well, I think I'll quickly go into 2 points, and then I'll quickly have a wee point that was raised within more questions from listeners. So, who done it is a very deep and in-depth conversation. I think you've only got 5
minutes. Aye.
So I think
you need to condense it into sound bites of awesomeness.
I know that's how this modern world works. Sound bites of awesomeness. So I think CIA members, ex-CIA members, far-right extremists within the southern states, particularly Dallas, were very disillusioned by John F. Kennedy's policies and his politics and his manner of government. They formed a plan. This involved using groups that were part of things like Operation Mongoose, which was a CIA thing that was run, and the invasion of the Bay of Pigs, people who were exiles at that. Dallas was chosen, not, I don't think, as the first place for assassination. There was 4 reported major threats within Kennedy's life: Miami, Chicago. I think he even cancelled his tour of Chicago because the threat was that big. But Dallas was right in the heartland of the opposite his politics. So they could more be movable at Dallas. Using, I don't think this is talked about enough, and I think I'd like to come back and talk to this on another podcast, using members of the Dallas police force, right-wing extremists, possibly Ku Klux Klan members. If you imagine, who can move about Dallas freely with guns? Who can ask people to go to other sides of the streets? Who corners off places? Who's got access to the police station where Oswald's held, where Jack Ruby's let in? Who's got access to these low-level mafia guys within Dallas, the Dallas police force? There's big questions for me in the Dallas police force. So I think them using those people as the shooters orchestrated a assassination attempt, which they pulled off. And who took control after that would be a southern-born boy of a president like LBJ, who went into office and through his contacts with the industrial military complex was able to extend and even up and increase and double and then treble America's involvement in the Vietnam conflict. So these factors came into play, and then a right-wing extremist faction of possibly CIA or ex-CIA orchestrated this. And out with that, there was a second plot which involved Lee Harvey Oswald and using him as the patsy. This plot here, I feel Lee Harvey Oswald was trying to infiltrate as part of, he was ex-CIA, ex-naval intelligence. He'd been to Russia as an undercover agent, sent back, hence the reason why he was never jailed for defecting. His wife was allowed to enter. He was allowed to bring up his children. He lived within the right-wing, anti-communist, ex-Russian community within Dallas. It's a whole second plot, and that involves the Dallas police and J.D. Tippit again. So, who killed Kennedy was these right-wing extremists within the American political system and their intelligence agencies. Why he was killed was to enforce a new type of politics, increase military action within Vietnam and take those goodies. I think.
Keep control of the ability to elect a president
That they want.
From then on.
Yeah.
No, I think you're pretty much spotty on. Yes.
It would be interesting to get other people's feedback, because I think I do feel we've missed out. The Jack Ruby and the Mafia connection is really interesting. Also, Lee Harvey Oswald was a person, his background in the intelligence services, and the shooting of J.D. Tippit, obviously. If Oswald never done that, why was that pinned on him? Why was J.D. Tippit's movements on that day so mysterious as well? What was his connection? Also, I mean, the CIA in New Orleans that ended up being the Jim Garrison connection, which became the JFK film, his book that it was based on. And I know somebody asked on the forum or through a question, what was our opinion on the historical accuracy of the JFK, and was it a good, as movie makers, was it a good point? So what's your opinion on the JFK movie, just to kind of wrap us up, Rob?
The movie with the
Kevin
fine
Costner.
gentleman from Dances with Wolves and The Postman and Waterworld. First thing is, I thought it was long.
Yep.
Which obviously was one of his movies, so it's naturally going to be long. As a movie, I found it really interesting, because he is a good actor, and he's usually in fairly big budget films. Definitely back then, you know,
Yeah.
it was a commandment of, in terms of the factual accuracy and all that kind of stuff. Nah, Hollywood propaganda machine is just that. It gives and pushes out, particular, and the people who own the military industrial complex. It's the military and media industrial complex. The media is, especially Hollywood, is the arm of propaganda. So very much, I believe it was just a misdirection.
Yeah. I personally believe that possibly a slight opposite to that. First of all, I think it's possibly the greatest edited film in the world. The editing in it is...
Who was it edited? Who directed it?
Oliver Stone.
Oliver Stone.
So I don't think Oliver Stone has...
Because Francis Ford Coppola, his movies have the best editing. But
Well, I personally think JFK is possibly the greatest. The way it blends real action and bits from Zapruder film and then recreated bits from Zapruder film, all that stuff, and the way flashbacks are in black and white and then some are in colour, it's just a real different styles used to kind of... But
so from the technical perspective,
yeah. But as you know, as someone who... So it's based on the Jim Garrison trial and a book by a man named Jim Marrs, so it takes those theories and runs with them, if you know what I mean. So it could be a story about the Jim Garrison trial and then put in Bush stuff, because that stuff wasn't known, or it couldn't put stuff in about the Jim Garrison trial and then put totally different theories, if you know what I mean. So it's got to go with that theory because that's the story. So I think it takes that story and runs with it. So I think that's why it gets a bad press about being very... It can be questioned because the Jim Garrison trial was questioned. It can be seen as that's why it can be picked apart, because it's no telling the story of the presidential assassination. And all the conspiracy is telling the story of Jim Garrison and his trial against Clay Shaw and his involvement in an alleged conspiracy to kill the president. So it has to keep that line. So from that point of view, that's one that can be marked up against it. It also, the things it changes, it uses subliminal messaging and tricks of the trade that are used in storytelling to make it a more interesting story. I mean, for a 3-hour film, for me, it whizzes by. It really is an interesting and fascinating film. But Oliver Stone isn't a stupid man. He knows how to sell a good story as well. So he uses a lot of cinematic tricks to put ideas, and a quick example is that in the storming of the Operation Mongoose camps, the FBI storm in, they arrest David Ferry, they arrest several members, several actors. We see them training. He then uses them as possibly the 2 gunmen for a third spotting nest. So if they're using the same actors, that's the same character, that's the same person. He's implying that these people for these camps were the shooters. But that's just a filmic trick. He's planting that subliminally in your mind. And Oliver Stone's very good at doing that stuff. But I do think for a starting point to get into the JFK, I mean the whole court scene at the end where he goes through Oswald's last steps and all that stuff, and then he presents his own theory, is an amazing piece of cinema storytelling. But it does come from this point of view of Jim Garrison's trial and Jim Garrison's idea of what happened. And there are other ideas out there, I think, and there are further ideas that can be taken. So I think you need to be wary of it in that end. But as a piece of work, I think it's possibly Oliver Stone's best film. Kevin Costner's great in it. He changes a couple of things to make him more sympathetic. Like there's a female in the cast, and his team, she was never there in real life. It was all males. Oliver Stone changes that one character, makes her a female, makes Jim Garrison's whole crew and whole lawyer team seem more. You want to be in their side. It uses tricks like that. That somebody who's going to present the evidence for the Warren Commission would pick that apart and say, well, you're lying about that, what else are you lying about? So he kind of shoots himself in the foot sometimes by doing these wee changes things to make it, at the time, a more politically correct 90s film. Whereas it was a 1963 to 1971 investigation. Women weren't in these positions. Or definitely no in New Orleans at the time. So I think that's the kind of idea for the JFK. I definitely, if you haven't seen it, I would definitely watch it. It's a great starting point for any JFK person who wants to get into the whole idea of the assassination. That's my thoughts on the film.
I think it's spot on. Like I say, from my perspective, as a film of entertainment and getting something that's obviously good actors, high budget, well written. As a movie, entertainment, I think it's, I've seen it a few times and it's thoroughly enjoyable. As something that attempts to get to the, as we have attempted this evening, to get to the bare bones of who, why, what, when, where, when, etc.
It does have a very singular focus on who was responsible for the assassination and how that assassination would have been taken out from that point of view. I.e., it's very much the industrial military complex, high up members of the Army, Navy, like the second tier under the president. It's those people who are disgruntled. It's those people who put it in place. I don't think that might not be the case. It might just, circumstantially, it might end up being that way. But as I said earlier on, there will be an ABCD of this conspiracy, of this story, what actually happened on that day. But I don't think anybody will ever know. It's that. That's why it's possible. I mean, we have sat here and I think we've quite easily taken apart the single bullet theory, the conspiracy within Dealey Plaza, just using 2 or 3 eyewitnesses reports that we've just thought, that we've just remembered, that we've just looked at over the past week, that we've used in the past 20 years of looking at this situation. We can say, looking at those evidences, that there was more than one shooter. That means there's a conspiracy. That means the Warren Commission told a lie, which means the whole thing's out of whack. Now, to be sympathetic to the Warren Commission, I personally feel they were told, here's the guidelines, you have to find Lee Harvey Oswald guilty of this crime. You need to make the facts fit, which for possibly 90% of the Warren Commission was very easy. Alan Dulles, the head of the CIA, fired by JFK. You need to make these facts fit. Done. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But I think we've scratched the surface, dude, and hopefully people out there have got the wee itch and can maybe.
I would say even more than that, that it was pre-planned. Even the commission or the investigation into the death was obviously pre-planned, because these kind of people, obviously you've got to kill a president, there's going to be repercussions, including official investigations, so all that sort of stuff I believe would have been pre-planned. How they waffle and how they use all the different legal speak and word and to waffle and blind and mislead, i.e. the Warren Commission.
Yeah, I mean, we've not even talked about the autopsy much. We've not talked about the events at Parkland Hospital. We've not talked about Lee Harvey Oswald's time in custody. I mean, there's so much.
His record of bad shooting. His
time in Russia, his possible FBI connections, his time in Dallas and New Orleans. I mean, it's such. I think within it all there is an ABCD. It's just trying to find that for yourself.
I pose this question to you. If it was to happen tomorrow, the same street in Dallas, the same, etc., with today's mobile telephone technology, with everybody phoning, everybody, Facebook and everybody picturing everything, filming everything, do you think the outcome would be different.
I don't know if that would add to the confusion, because there does seem to be. I mean, this does seem to be the beginning of the whole idea of MK Ultra and the CIA and their mind games and their psychic connection stuff and their LSD experiments and their hypnosis stuff that possibly leads into the Bobby Kennedy assassination. And then, I mean, this is the point where it begins for me, where all this stuff starts to bubble up and people try and see behind the curtain to what's actually going on in the world. If it happened today, it might be. I mean, there's a case that, and you will see it on all the forums and all the websites, the conspiracy websites, that these mass shootings that happen every now and then, these are kids who are brainwashed by certain agencies to commit these crimes and stuff like that. These things happen within a time where people have got phones and all that sort of stuff. So it might add to even more confusion. But I think it would be a lot quicker on throughout the world that people can start discussing the official verdicts or what they feel is wrong with an official verdict. That happens a lot quicker now.
Making dissenters.
Yes, as we do.
So, at 1 hour 16, I'll call it
I think we should do it.
There's a fair amount of information there to get people thinking and get people to, me myself, question obviously the official. And as you say, there is many different routes available still to walk down, very many different paths. And obviously you're going to send me a few links and everything will be up on the underneath the podcast, so people that, if they wish, they can check out some of these links, the videos, etc. that you've mentioned within your. But a lot of food for thought. So you want to just sum up here?
Well, I think it would be quite nice if people who are listening to the podcast can get back to us and just say, that was interesting, you said this, can you explain it a bit more? Or if we're going to come back to it next time, can you maybe talk about this angle, talk about that? Keep the ball rolling, folks. Get involved, look at the links, tell us what you think. I do apologise we never got to the Bigfoot connection. That was one of the first questions raised, was about Bigfoot. We'll come back to that another time. I do apologise, but yeah, please. That's how I'd like to sum up. I'd like this to be a continual conversation.
Is there a Bigfoot connection?
Well, we never got to it, Rob, so we'll maybe come back to it next to see if I've piqued your interest. That's what a good podcast
does.
Oh, it is.
Aye. Like Bigfoot as in Sasquatch?
That's the very same, so yes.
And JFK?
I can't tell you about that.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that.
So people get involved, tweet us, Facebook us, messages, tell us what you think, and let's keep the ball rolling.
Excellent. Awesome. Excellent. Nice one. Thank you very much, Greg.
No problem, sir. Thank you.
We'll talk again soon. Thank you.
Take care.
Everything is an Illusion is brought to you by